magic, and conjure. So, yeah, welcome everybody. Here it is, the kind of into summer. Not really, because summer doesn't end until September. But it is kind of the end because school is starting. I start classes tomorrow. And yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready. But anyway, here we go. And I want to come on here and talk about a couple things. And one of them has to do with starting school again and this book ban. So, probably you've been hearing about the book bans in public schools in various conservative states, or states run by conservative governors anyway, and school boards. And so it's just so egregious to me as an educator and as, a historian and somebody definitely interested in um, the retrieval and the uplift of African American history, because it's our stuff that's mostly on these chopping blocks. I mean, not exclusively our stuff, but the things that discuss those aspects of American life and history that need work, that need to be um, corrected. Those are the things that conservatives don't want us to read about. The things that keep America from being the great democracy that it could be and that they claim it is, those are the things that they don't want their children to know about, which is remarkable to me. So that's what this video was about, is just to say, um, hey, pay attention to the fact that there are banned books, and pretty much every year there are some books that are considered not appropriate for school children, which I don't really know exactly what that means considering what's in our popular culture these days. But in particular, think about, in terms of Black authors, James Baldwin, um, Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, who else did I put on? Zora Neale Hurston. So things that deal with race and racism, things that deal with sexuality, gender identity, things that critique a society at all and might teach children to be freer thinkers, those things are banned. So of course, those things that talk about race and racism, a lot of that stuff comes from African American, I mean, Latino, Asian, I mean, across the board, people who do critical race theory, right? People who are doing critical race theory, which is also so grossly misunderstood among common commonplace folk who, particularly who are conservative. They hear that as somehow anti-American, un-American, tearing down America when you talk about race. You know, I stutter because there's so much hypocrisy in that. Like, these are people who want to uphold the Confederacy. They want their Confederate heroes to remain heroes. They want the statues to remain. They want the stories to be told about the Confederacy. And yet, they don't want to tell the part of the story about why there was a civil war. They want to glorify plantation life and have tours on plantations, but then they're offended because the tour guide talks about slavery. So again, I stutter because the hypocrisy is so great. It's so great. So then you have great works like The Color Purple by Alice Walker that are on the chopping block, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, I think Beloved also, because that seems to also talk about witchcraft somehow because there's a ghost in it. So, James Baldwin, I mean, pick a work of his, of course he's going to be on the list. And so what I want to encourage you all is to, um, for you to read them and for you to make sure that young people in your life are reading them. Do the young people in your life know who Malcolm X was really? Have they read the autobiography of Malcolm X? Have you? Or maybe you did in college, probably not high school. You get to college, then you might get some of these things. So it's so important for us in terms of how we reclaim and hold on to our history and our traditions. We have to hold on to our books and uplift our authors and tell our stories. So when our books by our authors end up on these chopping blocks, that means that our children who are in public schools are also not getting exposed. Now, everybody needs to be exposed to these works. These are American authors, not just African American, and America would do well to have this kind of education integrated into the curriculum. But barring that, I mean, we see that that does not happen, then our children in particular need to know who we are and what our stories have been, right? So here I'm about to start school tomorrow, and I am going to meet students who are going to tell me that they don't read. That should be shocking. They say they don't read because they don't have the attention span anymore because they're so used to TikTok and whatever, video. They're used to the internet. They're used to their cell phones. They're interested in consuming entertainment in bite-sized pieces. They download music, like they don't even grasp the concept of a concept album, right? And where you have a whole piece of music from the artist that we used to take for granted. They don't listen to music that way either. They just download individual songs and then they're done with them. Their artists come and go so quickly, they don't have any connection to an artist necessarily. They just download and consume very quickly and they discard things. So when it comes to reading a book, they literally say to me, do we have to read this whole book? And I always say, do you want a whole degree? Do you want a whole paycheck? Or you just want part of it? So as I step into next week, I'm going to meet students who are going to tell me that, or that they're going to say, well, I know I was assigned such and such book in high school, but I didn't finish it. And we didn't really have to because, I did this, or basically they fudge their way around it. And so they're going to meet me and I'm going to insist that they read something. And I'm going to say, if you're not up for reading these things, then you may as well drop my class. Because if we're doing Baldwin, we're doing Baldwin from day one to the end. Because his concepts are so applicable to now. Actually, we're going to read a book called, in my Race and Contemporary Society class, we are going to read a book called The Other Side of Paradise by Stacey Ann Chen. It's excellent. It is a coming-of-age story about a young girl in Jamaica who is biracial. She is Jamaican and Chinese. And also Stacey Ann Chen is a spoken word artist, so you can Google her and find out all about her. But it's her personal memoir about growing up in Jamaica and being mixed race and, finding herself from a little girl to the time she goes away to college. And it's a remarkable story about identity and, layers of a society that she had to find her way through even as a child. So it's a great book. And in the end, after we struggle through getting them to read it, most of my students agree that they have enjoyed that book. But anyway, so this is a video about books. This is a video about the importance, yet again, of how we can reclaim our own traditions. Nobody else is going to do that for us. Like I'm talking about what they're doing in public schools, particularly the news stories have been Florida, especially, Texas, Oklahoma, and Tennessee in particular. We can complain and say, oh, what these schools are not teaching our kids and they don't tell our story. Of course, they're not going to. Why would they? It undermines their empire. So let us not fall into the trap of thinking that the other people are going to teach us and our children the truth. Why would we think that? That's a little mind game that they continue to play with us that, oh, yeah, sure, we're going to give you that. Oh, yeah, sure, we're going to give you that. They're never going to give us that. So it's our responsibility to give it to ourselves and to give it to our children. So if you've got young people in your life, give them some books to read and engage in conversation with them about what they're reading. If they do bring home something from school, engage in conversation with them about it. Let them know, like, reading can be fun and interesting. Because if we let this go, if we think it doesn't mean anything, then there also goes our history. There goes so much of who we are. We don't have to, part of our problem is we have to keep reinventing the wheel as a people all the time. Well, we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. Somebody already figured that out. Somebody already wrote about that. Somebody already gave us a blueprint. We don't have to keep doing that, but we keep doing that to ourselves because we won't read the books, right? So, anyway, I wanted to come on here and talk about that for the purpose of inspiring us. And also to mention, because you've seen the thumbnail, I said, and a back to school special. So, what I decided to do is to put on sale one of my courses, which is the African American religions class that I teach. It is a selection of those classes. It's just the audio portion. So it's like, listening to a podcast, listening to me teach my class in real time. Well, it's recorded now, but it was in real time. And so that's a course that I have on my platform and DrDarnise's Academy. And so I'm going to make that special rate available for this back to school season. I don't know how long I'm going to do that for. Maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, but I'm going to put the link to my Teachable platform, and you'll be able to sign up for that. It's go at your own pace because it's pre-recorded, so you'll be able to go at your own pace and listen to, not only me teaching African American religions, but the kind of feedback that I get from students and their questions and Lord only knows whatever else comes up in conversation. So um, it's going to be very interesting when I go back in this classroom because they also teach me things, right? They feed me, their youthful energy feeds me also. And so it'll be interesting, this group of people, what we end up doing. So I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, so again, if you're still here, if you stay with me, then of course I'd like to hear from you long haul. All right, that's it. Bye for now.